We spend our lives relentlessly chasing metrics. We accumulate wealth, chase status, and sharpen our intellects, trying to build a legacy that will outlast us. But those metrics offer no protection against despair. The author, Ernest Hemingway, achieved the absolute pinnacle of earthly success. He had wealth, global fame, and a Nobel Prize in literature. Yet he ended his own life in a state of profound emptiness. Psychologists point to a specific clinical state driving this kind of collapse: love deficiency. When humans lack deep, genuine connection, a void opens up. To survive the psychological discomfort, we turn to destructive substitutes, throwing ourselves into workaholism, substance addiction, or outward hostility. We are measuring a successful life with the wrong tools. Accumulating accolades and bank balances ignores the single psychological variable required to keep the human mind intact. To understand how critical this variable is, look at the mid-20th century Harlow monkey experiments. Infant macaques were separated from their mothers and placed in cages with cold metal wire surrogates. The deprivation broke them biologically. As adults, the subjects raised without warmth were completely incapable of functioning. They could not form social bonds, and when they had their own offspring, they violently rejected them. In humans, this psychological deprivation physicalizes. Take the clinical case of a 22-year-old patient whose stomach was literally rotting away from ulcers. He underwent 2 major surgeries to remove portions of his stomach, with a third on the way. His doctors realized the tissue decay was being driven by a deep-seated, repressed rage toward his adoptive parents. His recovery began only after a tearful reconciliation with his mother. As the decade of bottled resentment was released through physical connection and mutual forgiveness, the physiological stress response subsided, and his stomach tissue began to heal, eventually canceling the need for further surgery. Human beings require unconditional affection for basic physical survival. Our biology depends on this connection to maintain homeostasis. There is a text written nearly 2,000 years ago, the 13th chapter of the biblical book of 1 Corinthians. Look past its religious context for a moment and read it as history's ultimate psychological litmus test for the human soul. The logic it presents is brutal. You can possess absolute knowledge, master every language, and hold massive amounts of wealth. But if you execute those achievements without love, you are mathematically worthless. The text calls it a clanging cymbal, making loud noise but holding zero actual value. True love is a passive emotion, a feeling that washes over us when the conditions are right. This text redefines it strictly as a demanding, active sacrifice of your own ego and your own time. True love is a daily, operational choice to prioritize another human being's reality over your own pride. This chart shows the linguistic data behind a common marital breakdown. Studies suggest an average man might expend his capacity of around 1,500 words entirely at work, coming home depleted. Meanwhile, a woman might have a 25,000-word capacity, holding thousands of words in reserve to connect in the evening. When these two communication structures collide at the end of the day, friction is inevitable. One partner wants quiet recovery, the other needs active connection. Without an intentional sacrifice of comfort to bridge that gap, feelings of neglect take root. This structural friction extends right into parenting. Surviving the daily grind of raising children requires radical validation and what psychologists call skinship, active physical affection like hugging and holding. Consider the case of a student whose father responded to her distress over severe acne with active praise, calling her beautiful despite the flaws. Decades later, as she reached a position of high social and professional standing, she cited that specific moment of parental validation as the enduring foundation of her self-worth. The survival of human connection relies entirely on these specific micro-sacrifices in our most mundane daily interactions. If we zoom out to a macro perspective, the implications expand. Philosophical discussions, like those held at the Einstein House in Bern, Switzerland, explore a compelling framework: the idea that the universe, or a divine creator, actually experiences reality through human connection. The Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy observed something similar. He wrote that the divine literally enters our reality, only when we actively practice love toward one another. But this presents a severe operational problem. How do you actively love someone when you have been deeply traumatized, abused, or neglected by them? There is a psychological workaround. You do not force the feeling of love. Instead, you use forgiveness as a mechanical starting point to clear the neurological and spiritual blockage. Forgiveness is the mandatory operational prerequisite. Once applied, it unblocks the human capacity to participate in this cosmic currency of connection. Earthly achievements have a strict expiration date. Your wealth, your status, and your intellect will ultimately rust, crack, and be forgotten by history. The only thing a human being truly takes with them, and the only lasting imprint you leave on the universe, is the exact measure of how much you loved. Mother Teresa's legacy includes over 5,000 charity centers globally, an impact built entirely on the singular weight of active, sacrificial love. If love is the only permanent metric of existence, every moment spent withholding it to protect your ego is a wasted life. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Go to your spouse, your child, or your parent today. Drop your pride and initiate connection.